Today, I'm glad to invite Sydney to share her testimony with us. Hi, Sydney.
Hi.
Um, Sydney is a senior student from Moody Bible Institute. First of all, Sydney, can you tell us more about your background? How did you come from China to United States?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, first of all. So I'm actually an adoptee. I was adopted when I was 8 months old, and I was adopted by my parents from Northern California. So they and my older sister flew out to China and they brought me back to their home. And so, yeah, I was raised in a Christian conservative homeschool family, and yeah, that's how I came to the US.
So, Sydney, can you tell us more about your high school experience with us?
Yeah. It's really interesting because basically, long story short, like I said, I was raised in a Christian family and I was homeschooled. And so for a long time, I was always very much like, I guess from a young age, when I was about 7, is when I invited Jesus into my heart. And I always was like, well, obviously, I believe the Bible and this is what my life is about. But I wouldn't say I started actually following Christ until later on in life, which we'll get to in a minute. But yeah, I was kind of like that Sunday school kid, and I would memorize verses and all of those sorts of things. And then when I reached high school, I kind of started going off on my own. And a couple of things contributed to this. When I was about 12, my sister and I would teach ourselves piano. We just really got into it. And it's kind of a cool God story, but basically, I randomly met this woman who happened to be um, one of Japan's top representing pianists, and she was retired as a teacher. And she said, "Well, I'd love to teach you and have you be my prodigy." And so I classically trained as a pianist for several years during high school, and more as time went on, that kind of became like um, my persona, like who I was and my where I placed my value and where I placed my worth and all those things. And um, so my senior year, I was kind of like I was moving in the direction of piano performance. That was kind of my identity at that point. And I was also dual enrolled in our community college nearby. And so I made a lot of friends and influences that very much kind of like helped feed an ego that was about me and about like my performance and what I wanted to be and what I wanted to do, especially in piano, because that's where I found my identity. So high school was a very not a good time for me. Very much moved away from like my focus on God or the Lord or anything like that. So
Sydney, how did God brought you back from a pianist music focus to him again? Can you share
yeah,
with us?
yeah,
Mhm.
of course. Um, yeah, so like I had said, a lot of my kind of like purpose and identity was really in music and my piano skills and abilities. And that was a lot of me and a lot of just kind of like pressure I felt as well from the outside. Um, and so it's really interesting what happened, but my dad actually graduated from this gap year program called Ecola Bible College, and it's on the Oregon coast, and it's just a 1 year Bible program. And he really wanted me to go, and I was like, I'm not interested in that. Like, and at this point, I had kind of moved away from God so much of just like I had the mentality of like he hasn't done anything for me. Who is he? I mean, why would I follow God? Or I mean, why would I take that time? And so just some different things happened in our family, and I ended up being like, okay, I'll go for a year, just try it out, see what happens. And it ended up being one of the most transformative years of my life. I think that was one of the first times I encountered genuine, real Christian community. And at the time, I kind of stopped playing piano when I went into that year after high school, after I graduated. And I didn't tell anyone really that I played piano, and I realized like I was accepted and valued and wanted. And I didn't have anything to bring to the table except myself. And I just remember being so stunned and amazed of like, these are people that love me and we're all so different, but the only thing we have in common is Christ. And that just totally blew me away. And I remember just thinking like, this is worth it. Like the joy, the sense of something that I have here is something I've never experienced to this level before. And it's not just the school, it's not just the environment. And so I finished up my first year, and a different time I could talk about the details of that. But there's this option to go back for a second year as a leader, basically. And curiously, basically, my parents had told me like, no, like if you want to go back, you need to raise that money yourself. Like you need to make that money go. And I was like, wow, this is my first test of real, like, will God provide? Because I didn't really have any money at that point, and it was, I think, $10,000 that I needed to acquire within like 4 months. And I was like, there's no way. So I went back home to my small little tiny rural area where there's no job opportunities. It was the beginning of COVID, so everything was shut down. And I was like, okay, God, if you want me to go back, like, you're really gonna have to open the door. And I was scrolling on Facebook one day and I found this job, and it was to work at my local hospital. It was a temporary job as a COVID screener at the front desk. And I went for it. I just like randomly applied. I had no pre-qualifications at a hospital or medical or anything. And I got the job. And basically, long story short, I made within a couple $100 everything that I needed to make to go back. And that was definitely a sign for me of like, okay, like this is serious. So I went back and I was able to be a leader. I was able to be an RA and just be in some different leadership roles. And I remember just really thinking like this is my life. As I have come to realize like Christ is worth following. I want to tell more people about him. I want to disciple people. I want to see people in relationship with him. I want to see people experience the freedom that I've experienced from identity and all of those things. And so, yeah, that just totally, that whole experience like flipped my view on life, my view on priorities, my view on what it means to be a Christian or to have faith in God. It's something that totally grasped my entire life. And it wasn't just a supplement anymore. It was like, oh, wow, I have to totally reorient everything. So,
So it was like a life-changing
yes,
program for your faith in God, right?
yes, definitely.
And then after the gap program, you need to pick a college, right? So Sydney, why did you end up choose Moody Bible Institute as your college?
Yeah. So that's more of an interesting story too, because like I had said, before the gap year school before Ecola, I was on the track towards, I was essentially on the track towards like conservatory. So I was interested in music therapy for a while. And I think a little thing I missed in that whole part was that during high school, I was very much struggling with mental health and those sorts of things. And one of my solutions was to go into music therapy. And so going to that gap year program, it didn't solve the problem, but it totally changed my perspective on who can be the ultimate healer in that situation. So anyway, yeah, I had gotten into a private school for music, and I put all those auditions on hold. I had auditioned to get into it. I had a scholarship. And as I was ending my second year at this gap year program, I was just like, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I can go into this secular university, and I don't know if I'm going to find purpose and fulfillment in this. And at the time, I started talking with one of the assistant directors at Ecola, and he is a Moody alumni. And he was just like, Signy, I really think you should consider going to Moody. Really think you should think about it. And I was just like, no, like, absolutely not. I just finished 2 years of Bible college. I'm not going to go to Bible college again. And just as I really thought about it and I really moved through my priorities and what was important and what had been proven to me physically in front of me of what had given me purpose in life, I started to realize I want to serve. What had moved from people pleasing became serving. I wanted to serve people. And I was like, well, I can't serve people if I don't have something to give them. And so yeah, and so then I was just like, okay, God, if you really want me to go to Moody out in Chicago, very far away from me, I have no, like, this is too big of a decision for me to make, but okay. So I applied, and at the time, I was under the impression that it was really difficult to get into Moody. And so I was like, if you let me in, then that's my sign, and I'm going to go. And so I heard back a couple months later, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go. So I packed up my bags and booked my one-way ticket to Chicago.
Very obedient from God's direction. Sydney, the last question I want to ask you is, how was your Moody experience moving forward for God's calling on you? Can you share with us?
Yeah, I would love to. Yeah, so Moody has been really good. It's been very formative for me. I think there was just no way for me to predict for the moment I stepped off the plane in Chicago for the first time. I just had no idea what to expect. And I think one of the things that I wrote down when I first got here was just like, okay, I'm here to fill my toolbox so that I'm ready to serve wherever. And I can tell you that that has been answered, and that God has definitely shown himself just in so many ways through the professors, through the classes, through the community here. And it's been very, very formative for me in terms of shaping, I guess, just like my passions. And which one of those things, my major is ministry to women, and I'm just really passionate about Christian women being, or I mean, just women in general being equipped to know the word and to understand their worth and their value and their calling in the same way that I did as I learned more about God. Just at my gap year school program, I learned more about like what I was made for, what I was meant for, what I was designed for. And I would love to see women see that. I would love to see women, Christian women, having that difference from secular women, having that knowledge of who they are. And so, yeah, I'm in my senior year now. I'm wrapping up, and I have my internship this upcoming semester. I'll be working with women, but I'm just, I'm very excited for where the Lord leads me. And I think, just kind of like before, I don't know. I have no idea what's next, but he's brought me here so far in very unexpected ways, and I have no doubt that he's going to continue to move me forward. He's going to continue to guide me. He's going to continue to open doors. He's going to continue to provide for me. So I am very, very excited. Yeah.
So today, Sydney, thank you for your sharing. So
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
so if you guys hear Sydney sharing, find it helpful, please subscribe, like, and share with others. So thank you, Sydney. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.